Great. You have completed the Know Thyself game and the Know Thy Partner game as well. And now it's time to know thy relationship. You're going to put each of your sheets side by side and create a comparison table, basically. And through this, you might discover some blind spots that you didn't know you had about the relationship, yourself or your partner. You might also discover some beautiful gifts in the relationship. And you might also discover some challenges that might be bigger than you expected or smaller than you expected. So let me point out to you some sections of this comparison table here. Let's look at the needs that you have and that your partner has, the 3 top most important needs that you guys have at the moment. Human needs are very essential to a human being functioning properly. It's not a matter of saying, oh, the need that I have for beauty or harmony is not going to work in our relationship, so I'm going to let go of this need. That's not going to work like that. Same with your partner. There are some basic human needs and they need to be respected and honored. The way you or your partner are going to go out into the world and find ways to meet this very deep need could be done in a positive, helpful way, or it could be done in a negative way. The one thing that I want to point out to you from this list of basic human needs is this section right here, the physical well-being needs. These are the basic human beings, and they need to be honored within yourself and within your partner. Let me give you an example. One of these needs is the need for air. Let's say that you love living in a big city, you have this fantastic job in a big city, and your partner has some breathing issues. Maybe he or she is asthmatic, and living in a big city is very challenging. He or she gets sick all the time. Now, air is a very basic need, and you might need to meet this very basic needs that your partner has by moving to a place that's less polluted. It's very essential. Another basic human need, which we don't very often think about, is the need for touch. Human touch is very, very important. It's essential in babies. Babies who are touched on a regular basis will thrive. Their body will grow. Their brain will grow as well. They will feel connected and secure. And we tend to underestimate the value of touch in a relationship. And there's this story that I've heard about that might point this out to you. There's this gentleman who'd been married with his wife for a while, and he had noticed that his wife was no longer physically touching him. I'm not talking sexual touch. I'm just talking about, a hand on the shoulder or, caress or holding hands or whatever. And he decided to count how many days it would take his wife to touch him. And he counted. And he counted. And he counted. And after 6 weeks of his wife not touching him in any ways, he burst out crying. And he was in so much emotional pain that he realized this absence of touch was excruciating. So it might be a little insight for you that either of these basic needs is something to nourish within oneself and also to help nourish with your partner. It is so important. So that's for human needs. And the second part of this comparison table has to do with qualities. Your qualities and your partner's qualities side by side. You guys might notice you have some similar qualities. You might have some different qualities. It's all good. It's all good. A quality is a quality. What you bring forth and express into your life, that comes from this place of strength and joy and this gift that you've been given to express into the world. It's all great. You might realize that there are some of your qualities and some of your partner's qualities that you don't get to express on a regular basis. One of these qualities that we are all born with is creativity. We were born, and as children, we were creating all the time. Whether it was building a castle made out of sand, creating mud pies, or taking a brush or using your fingers to create some kind of a Picasso, we as human beings have this basic quality that in some of us has been squandered. And Brené Brown, who is a researcher in shame, vulnerability, courage, realized through her research that underutilizing creativity is like destroying one's soul. It is soul energy sapping. And so that's one of these gifts that is worth honoring within yourself and encouraging your partner to have as well. And I'm not talking about Martha Stewart kind of stuff. I'm not talking about being able to fold napkins in a way that is beautiful, or being able to paint a beautiful painting. Creativity comes in many ways. It could come through writing, it could come through speech, it could come through taking beautiful photographs, it could come through your exercise, the way you exercise. So think about these ways and find ways to encourage this within each other. Looking at your comparison table here, let's take a deeper look at your values and your beliefs here. There are some values and beliefs that are helping the relationship, helping yourself, helping your partner, and there are some situations in which your values and beliefs are not aligned. The gap may be big like this between each other, or it could be like that. And let me give you some examples here. Let's say that one of you values generosity, and that may make you a bit of a spender here. And let's say that your partner is very frugal. That's what he or she values. And so you have this divide here. And that has an impact on the kind of gifts you guys offer or not. It might have an impact on the allocation of time and resources. And it's kind of big. A different value that you may have is that one of you values alone time and the other one values social interactions. So you're going to have to find some ways here to honor each other's values and deep needs at the core of it. And by the way, which value is better than the other? Is generosity better than frugality? No. They all have their place. And it's a question of balancing out the values here. In some cases, generosity is the way to go. In other cases, frugality is the way to go. When it comes to values and beliefs, I'd like to encourage you to look at things through your partner's perspective. You know what's important and what's valuable to you. Now look at your partner's point of view as well and expand this perspective. That's an act of love. Empathy and putting oneself in the other person's shoes is an act of love. And making sure that you have this perspective that opens up is done without judgment, without labeling, without comparison. Ask yourself, which of your partner's values can you show more understanding and acceptance and encouragement towards? That's an act of love. That's what relationships are about. It's not about I do my own thing here, you do your own thing there, and we never meet in the middle. We can always learn from one another. And through this practice of relationship, which I believe is a spiritual practice, we get to expand our awareness in the process. I personally have been very lucky to learn about this from my mother and father-in-law. Yeah. And the entire family, my husband's family, is very good at being curious about other people's values and beliefs and perception and stories. And it's been a breath of fresh air because I didn't come from that background at all. There's a lot to learn from just being curious and understanding why do certain things matter a lot to your partner, and also understanding this within yourself. The difference between values can be totally harmless and actually beneficial because you can learn from one another, and in some cases it would actually be harmful. If the difference in values, if the gap is way too big, you may have to make some decisions here. Would you stay in a relationship or would you go? Let me give you an example here. You were brought up in a household where the family values held were honesty, caring for other people, and you realize that your partner has been involved in some criminal activities or a Ponzi scheme that has resulted in people being robbed of their life savings. What do? If the gap is very, very big, and the fact that you will stay with your partner threatens your integrity for honesty and caring for other people, this might be too much of a gap for you. Or you might decide that the relationship is very important and that you're willing to give another chance. In which case, if you have a very strong value, it's very important for you, you don't want to steer away from it, you might have to tell your partner, this is my line in the sand. I value integrity and caring for other people. And for me to be able to stay with you in this relationship, I'm going to need you to abide by that as well. And you might ask your partner to fix the harm that they've caused. And your partner may agree to that, or they may not. They might be willing to do it, or they may not. They might be able to do it, or they may not. At every stage, you'll have to make a decision here whether the relationship is worth it in general. So big questions here for the very big gaps, and that has a lot of these big gaps come when trust is at stake here. It takes a lot of time to rebuild trust, and in some cases it might be worth doing it, and in other cases you might think it's not. When you are comparing the needs of both of you, you might have discovered that behind the nagging, the complaints, the fears, the disagreements, the attacks, you might have realized that there is a need that is being called for. And let's say that you realize, for example, that a lot of your partner's complaining has to do with his or her deep need for warmth, for example, or for stability, anything that makes him or her feel unstable within the relationship or because of work, puts a lot of stress for him or her, and triggers the complaints or the attacks. Or you may realize that some of the fears that you think your partner has to do with trust. And when you look at this through this perspective of needs that are not being met, hence the fears, hence the complaining, hence the attacks, hence the disengagement of your partner or yourself, then you can go back to what is really deeply important to you guys. And that's a revealer, in my opinion. So it's greatly beneficial to know about each other's fears, because deep inside there is a need that's not being met. And knowing that is great. It's great information. You can go and do something about it and find a healthier way to meet this need within yourself, within the relationship. The other section about expectation, the expectation that you have of yourself, the expectation that your partner has of himself or herself, the expectation you have for each other, in some cases are helpful, and it's good to recognize it. In some cases, it helps you guys raise your standards for each other and for the relationship. So acknowledge this as a gift. Same with the boundaries. You may each have some boundaries that are helpful to the relationship. Acknowledge it. Comparing emotional awareness and doing this rating is helpful as well. And it's not about deciding, hey, I am emotionally more intelligent than my partner, or, oh gosh, my significant other is so much more mature when it comes to emotional intelligence. It's not about comparing here or judging one versus the other. We show up on different at different points on the spectrum of emotional intelligence. For example, self-awareness, knowing one's emotions. I think that's something I rate pretty well. But the next part is self-control, managing one's emotion. My husband is way better than I am in this area. Conversation with self, motivating oneself. Well, same thing. I think my husband is better in this field than I am. However, when it comes to empathy, recognizing emotions in others and managing emotions in others, I think I'm doing a little bit better than he is. So you might still be able to learn from one another here. And acknowledging that each of us started in very different places through our upbringing, through our childhood, young adult life, adult situation. We all have different, we are all on a different path, and we started in different places. And it's not really realistic to expect us to be all at the same level here. It's not helpful in any ways. However, you can still learn from one another. And as long as you personally have the motivation, the desire, the drive to get a little bit better in each of these areas of emotional intelligence, you're on a path of growth, and it's very beneficial to you and to the relationship, most likely. So this is it for the lesson on Know Thy Relationship. You have discovered some of the blind spots and challenges that you face individually and within the relationship. And you've also discovered some beautiful gifts that are worth recognizing and honoring. So take the time to think about it, to reflect, and ideally to share this with your partner if he or she is open to it. I will see you on the next video, which is about poor values, poor beliefs, poor expectations, and poor boundaries.